There is a paradox at the heart of the National Hockey League. How can a player be so utterly dominant on the ice, yet so invisible in the media? We are talking about a player who has redefined the two-way forward position, shutting down the greatest offensive minds in the game while quietly racking up points of his own. Yet, if you ask the average sports fan to name the superstars of hockey, his name might barely register. Today, we are answering that question. We are exploring how a player you barely hear about became the best defensive forward in hockey. And before we dive into this, these deep dives take hours of research, so if you enjoy this, hit that subscribe button. The player we are talking about is Aleksander Barkov. To understand the quiet dominance of Aleksander Barkov, you have to go back to Finland. Raised under the strict, foundational influence of his father, a former professional player himself, Barkov's hockey education was fundamentally different from his North American peers. While kids in Canada and the United States were spending hours perfecting their wrist shots and dreaming of highlight reel goals, Barkov was meticulously practicing face-offs and defensive positioning. He learned the game on the wider European ice, which demands superior spatial awareness and a suffocating grasp of defensive angles. But this approach didn't come without skepticism. When he stepped into the professional Finnish league at just 16 years old, there were loud doubts. Critics wondered if a kid that young and that remarkably quiet could survive against grown men. Those doubts followed him across the Atlantic. When the Florida Panthers shocked the hockey world by drafting him second overall in 2013, it was a deeply controversial pick. Analysts were stunned. But Barkov didn't say a word. He just went to work. His immediate success in the NHL silenced the critics fast, proving his hyper-mature game could translate perfectly to the smaller, more physical North American rinks. Even when a knee injury threatened to derail his early momentum, he rehabbed in silence and returned sharper than ever. And just in case anyone thought his defensive focus made him boring, he casually pulled out a disgusting, between-the-legs shootout goal that left goaltenders guessing and fans speechless. It was proof that beneath the quiet exterior was a highly skilled, wildly entertaining superstar. Barkov's evolution from a young prodigy to a legendary leader was catalyzed by the arrival of Jagr. The veteran icon took the young Finn under his wing, imparting decades of professional wisdom. Soon after, Barkov signed a massive extension, and at just 23 years old, was named the captain of the Florida Panthers. But how does a guy who barely speaks lead an NHL locker room? He leads by absolute example. There is a famous story that perfectly captures his style. Barkov started showing up to the rink at 6:30 in the morning for voluntary early workouts. He didn't ask anyone to join him. He didn't give a motivational speech. But within weeks, half the team was showing up at 6:30 a.m. right alongside him, wordlessly following their captain's lead. That relentless, silent drive culminated in ultimate team and individual success. It eventually earned him the Selke Trophy as the league's best defensive forward and helped his team secure the President's Trophy. If you need hard proof of this dominance, just look at the numbers. At 6'3" and 215 pounds, he is a physical force. Yet, despite playing the toughest minutes against the opponent's best players, he consistently takes incredibly few penalties, sometimes hovering around just 12 penalty minutes for an entire season. He completely tilts the ice, ranking consistently in the top 5 across all major defensive metrics. Add in a dominant 55% face-off win rate while logging a grueling 22 minutes of ice time per night, and you have the statistical profile of a perfect, fundamentally sound hockey player. Aleksander Barkov is the ultimate paradox, a silent assassin who dominates loudly on the score sheet and in the advanced analytics. He doesn't demand the spotlight, but his playstyle commands absolute respect. So, I have a question for you. Factoring in his defensive mastery and his offensive touch, does Aleksander Barkov belong in the conversation for the top 10 centers of all time? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more deep dives into the sports world. Thanks for listening.